and now the Necrons are back, and they see all these primitive races on their lawns, and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back.
Alright guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of TNT Gaming. So we are jumping back into the world of Warhammer. We have Bricky's faction video, in which in the previous video you learned about the Eldar and the Dark Eldar. And so you found out how there was like the race had been split because they were engaging in debauchery and evilness and torture and all this other stuff. Debauchery. Yeah. And so, tomato. And so they had birthed the god of Slaanesh.
Yes.
And one continued to do bad things, like make people out of furniture and and engage in all kinds of stuff. And so now we're gonna go ahead and jump forward with another race. I believe we're going to kick things off with the Tyranids. So, any questions so far?
I won't have any questions until the end.
Okay.
So
all right.
Stay tuned to the end.
All right, let's do it. Let's go.
Bugs.
Come on, they following you now. They following me. The bugs.
The bugs.
The Tyranids. Now, you want to talk something a lot more fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans? Let's talk the Tyranids. They're bugs. Do they look like Zerg? Hell yeah, they look like Zerg. You want to know why they look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to be what Zerg were. Apparently StarCraft was supposed to be a 40K game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man. Like, kind of Space Marine-y, those Marines, huh? They look a little bit Space Marine-y to me. Maybe. I don't know.
It does.
You really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of unfathomable proportions. These are giant, extremely bio-advanced hive mind organisms that are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely potent and powerful and kill and eat anything in their path. They are probably the least evil faction in all of 40K because all they want to do is eat shit. They want to nom nom the entire galaxy. They hangry and we food. Also, this Tyranid hive mind has a presence in the warp. In fact, Tyranids in their own right have a massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the shadow in the warp specifically, where when they are coming in to invade a planet, they have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the psychers on that planet. And how do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre, absorbing all that biomass and turning them and all of their other Tyranids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties too, all based on what is important. Tiny little ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormagaunts, Termagants, and Genestealers, all the way to the Hive Guard and the Exocrines and the Swarm Lord, to Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets, and even something as crazy as the Hierophant Bio-Titan.
So they are the least evil.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around that.
And that's only
bugs.
You're right, exactly. And that's only because they don't really have any kind of objective other than just
food.
To devour
Us
stuff.
This is I hate bugs, and all I'm thinking is about a big can of Raid spray, just
invading planets like swarm of cockroaches.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about, because you know how resilient cockroaches are.
Yeah.
So the first thing coming to my mind is, how hard are these things to kill?
Yeah, they're pretty hard to kill.
Yeah.
And then they have what he said. They have a hive mind, so it's like they kind of are all
like bees.
Yeah, they're all like linked together.
Yeah,
they all
or trees.
Think.
So
the
that
same.
kind of makes them like powerful if you don't, because you don't have to say
Yeah.
what you're thinking. You just think it all
Yeah,
together.
and then everybody is on code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyranids come in all forms and sizes depending on what they require. They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you can
that's
plague them
crazy.
or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and
weapons.
such. Tyranids are
Ray's not gonna
nigh
work.
perfect organisms and are pretty spooky when it comes down to how they handle all of their genetic material. Keep feeding them, they'll keep evolving. They keep on creating new horrifying organisms to spread across the galaxy. And you want to know what the most terrifying part of the Tyranids is?
No.
We might be surrounded. There have been around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets. Behemoth, Kronos, all these different kinds of hive fleets. And they've all arrived in the galaxy from different points. Different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyranids come through. And that is horrifying. Because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded on all sides by Tyranids. The only reason you may not hear a whole lot about Tyranids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story off of one hive mind genocidal monsters. All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving. I mean, as cool as there are, there's some cool characters, the Swarm Lord, Old One Eye. You can't really have a whole bunch of major character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are, they're simple. They want to eat you. They want to eat you and absorb your biomass. They are simple bugs. If you want something a little more complex, talk Genestealer cults.
I can have all the pot I want. I get around faster than walking,
Wait,
and
wait.
wherever I need a seat,
I'm still trying to unpack these bugs with bioweapons and spaceships
Yeah.
and eating us.
Could you imagine that?
No!
If they have like the
freaking-
ability to travel through space, they're like more advanced than us now. Bugs.
This is, it is disgusting.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little
Well, I
bit,
mean,
you know?
not to them.
I'm talking about from my
to
perspective.
them, they probably think humans are disgusting.
No, they think I'm yummy.
Yeah, well, you are.
I can just sit on my balls.
Genestealer
Edit that
cults
out.
are a special brand of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society.
shit.
Brand-
Oh,
and wherever
Genestealer
Listen to
cults.
this.
I can have all the pot I want. I get around faster
Genestealers.
than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
Genestealer cults are a special brand of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves into different kinds of society. And by infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe in these regular humans, pray and believe into their Tyranid hive mind gods. And these brood lords and I think they're called patriarchs all can turn an entire world all based into Genestealers, and these are called Genestealer cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but servants of the Tyranid masters just by infecting them and screwing with their genetic code a little bit. They also have this cool like Mad Max look, which is really neat. They are definitely one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest threat to the Imperium. They're up there though, because you, dingus, stepped on a bug in middle school. Asshole. There is a cancer eating at the Imperium. With each decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of bioengineered monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyranid race. But if it is aware of us, it must know us as nothing but prey. Tyranids. They're cool. But are they as cool as the Orks?
Every screamstone red.
Okay, so wait a minute. I have a question. The Genestealers,
Yeah.
that's what it's called?
Yeah, right.
Are they still part of the bug race?
Yes, they are.
They look humanoid, and
Yeah,
that's
so-
because they take us over.
Yeah. It's like a parasite. It's
Jesus.
like implanting a parasite inside a human and then basically altering your genes so that you worship
That's-
and pray to Tyranid gods, and you know
That's
you-
insane.
You become a Tyranid
Because
yourself.
you think about your DNA, and if one little bit of your DNA is
Yeah.
changed, like you're a completely different person.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Or
a genetic mutation or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, and they evolved to be that way. You know, to be able to alter genes. That's crazy.
And then thinking about it as an occult, because you think about occults and how crazy they are, and the weird things that they make you do.
Right. Yeah. Pray to bug gods. The orcs.
Means I'm super fast.
Orcs.
I think he likes orcs.
Fucking love orcs. So, yes, the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40K. The orcs are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have philosophy. Orcs don't have existential crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy because he the biggest orc. He big orc knows best. You win through the power of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're enjoying life. You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs. And then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight because orc dead. Orcs. They scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe, they have the mental imagination that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not. But it works. That's the power of imagination.
I love that.
So they have like
law of attraction orcs.
Right, yeah. It's like, remember the movie Hook? Where they were imagining the food.
Oh, my favorite never foods.
Right, and it just appeared. That's how the orcs world operates.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah,
they
like
just
that.
imagine shit working or imagine doing shit, and it just goes.
Yeah, I kind of dig that philosophy.
Things red because it makes them think that goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Orks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard. And it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids. Maybe more. Who knows? But they keep on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orcs are entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together. That makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that it works. Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a wa is just war in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs. And on the tabletop, they are a total coin flip, and they're really fun. I have never met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained.
Oh.
Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything, from the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. And that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip. Which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way. It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're gonna have fun, and you want to be stupid, and you want to be silly, you're gonna play some damn orcs. But on the opposite side of the fun part of this, let's talk about the Necrons.
Can I pause it?
Yeah.
So what I like about the orcs is it seems very lighthearted, and like, even though they're killing each other and killing everybody, they're enjoying doing it.
Right.
It doesn't seem like evilness or badness or malice behind it. And like through this whole series, it's just kind of been like very grim.
Right.
And I'm trying to find like a glimmer of hope. I know.
I think you found it in the orcs.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's what a lot of people say. A lot of people say that the orcs are like the funnest race in Warhammer, mainly because they don't really have a true objective of what they're trying to do. They're just trying to just go to war and have fun. Like when they go to war, they're having fun.
Yeah, they're enjoying
it. Yeah, they're enjoying everything.
Yeah.
But what gets me is like the whole power of imagination. Their ships work. They're able to space travel just because they believe so. I was reading one of the comments, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody was saying in the comments that the whole world of 40K is what it is because the orcs believe it is. Oh. So they said something about the world of 40K is birth, or it is what it is, because the orcs believe that there is an Imperium of Man, there is a warp, there is chaos gods, and all that other stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But I'm not sure if that's exactly what it is, but they said something to that statement.
So is there like more details about the orcs?
Yeah. So what Bricky is doing is he's just touching on like a brief breakdown of these races, but in other videos or other creators, they kind of go more in depth.
Yeah, because I want to see how they got from being like an intelligent race to kind of like dumb, and they're not whimsical, but there's a sense of whimsy to it. Yeah. And just enjoyment. And so I kind of want to know more details about that. I feel like it'll be
maybe after this we can go ahead and we can go back and watch like the birth or the creation of the orcs,
that'd be cool,
and how they progress throughout the years. Now the Necrons, we're familiar with them because we started watching Pariah Nexus.
Yeah.
And so, the Necrons are like those skeletal robot kind of things, and they disintegrate everything they touch.
Yeah, with their weapons.
Yeah.
Are they the smartest race?
I think they are, because they're one of the oldest races. And so maybe, I'm not sure, I think they may be the ones who are responsible for creating the orcs. Because I think they may have created the Eldar and the Orcs at the same time. So I can't remember. I don't know. But let's just check this out.
The Necrons are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terminators, and they still look that way, but now they actually have a story. So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and just stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings, and they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the Old Ones said, piss off. Not really, they were a lot more humble about it, but they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this very well and waged war with them, kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war, because during this War in Heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan, or the Catan. These Star Gods were also very much like Old Ones, almost omnipotent
Like a
beings,
Grim
and they
Reaper.
too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones, you, the Catan? And the Catan said yes. And in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan to allow them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap. And the Necrons were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will. And then, with their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the Old Ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide of these Old Ones. The Old Ones did their best to stave it off. They even created other races, the Eldari and the Orks, to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the Old Ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race completely removed.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, this is a very interesting story. Because the Necron or the Necron tier, they looked very unusual, and I did question, like, what are these?
Right,
they look like, skeleton robots. And so now to come to find out, they have no souls whatsoever.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Because I remember when we were watching the first episode of Pariah Nexus, you were like, who are these guys? Are they part of the Adeptus Manicus, or why do they look the way they do? And to come to find out that they've been just stripped of all, I want to say humanity, but they're not human, but they've been stripped of everything because of the Catan.
Well, they were kind of humanoid.
Right.
Yeah.
So now they're left as like husk that have taken out the Old Ones, which in desperation, the Old Ones were like trying to create their own kind of, I guess, race that they could do to fight them, and they couldn't.
Full on 100% genocide. However, during all this, the Catan so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences, doesn't matter. The Catan, with these overpowered people, they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orks actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full-scale revolt against their Catan.
Consciousness.
I guess he was the strongest of his people. But so maybe the Catan, they had believed that all the Necrons were under their control, yet maybe he was just acting like it, but he was able to retain his consciousness.
This is one of the most interesting stories.
Yeah, this is pretty deep shit.
Yeah.
Masters. And this revolt was bloody as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Orks. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back and they see all these primitive races on their lawns and they think, get the fuck off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they're here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with. It's pretty cool. The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40K. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game. Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs, I was remade. Here, my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more. Necrons are also pretty smug. Trazen the Infinite especially, little dickhead. But speaking of dickheads, last race, let's talk the
Okay, so when you think about it, you think about the Necrons and everything that they've gone through. Warhammer is, it really is not like good and evil, and it's all about perspective. Because here, the Necrons, they were trying to gain immortality or preserve what they had going on within the universe. They end up fighting all these different types of gods, and then they go into slumber, and then all these other races take over. And then they awaken, and it's like you have humans, you have Eldar, you have Orks, you have Tyranids, you have everybody who's running all over your universe that used to be yours. So it's like now they have to cleanse to kind of get their home back.
And I like what you said, it not being about good and evil, because that's something that I keep trying to wrap my mind around.
Right, yeah.
Because you have to realize, like, I'm still human. And it's like my brain does not compute. Right. I'm not as advanced as these guys. And that's something with the Warhammer or 40K universe that I'm trying to wrap my mind around.
It's like
it's so much bigger than that.
Right. What an ancient or even futuristic alien race believe in genocide, of wiping out, you know, tons and tons of trillions of races or people, especially if they don't have souls themselves. You know?
Yeah.
Like, what is their code of ethics?
Right. It's just a different world that they're in. And, you know, my puny human brain just can't comprehend right now. But the story is so intriguing.
It should be a movie.
Definitely. But I feel like I want to watch it for, like, Bricky's breakdown for a second time, because it's so much detail that I want to, you know, dive into it a little bit more, and then like learn about the different races, because it's okay. So with the Necrons, I kind of associated it with AI and humans.
Okay.
Because like the Necrons created like the Necroteers. Or the
Necroteers. Yeah. They were the originals.
Okay. And so, and then you have the people who created the Eldar and the Orks.
The old ones.
Right. And so it's like races creating races.
Right.
And then it's like, does this race like become, when it evolves, does it overtake you? You know, and that's what I'm thinking with the AI.
Yeah,
like this is actually possible.
Right. No,
like,
no. But
this sounds like really far-fetched.
But the thing of it is that when you think about it, especially with the rise of AI and robots and all that other stuff, like, and the amount of information that it can hold, of course, naturally, that's what's going to happen. That's the future of humanity. The future of humanity is either be microchipped into a cyborg or completely AI. I mean, it's only that's what's gonna happen.
Babe,
no, I'm just all right. We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go into those kind of conversations.
I'm saying it's just a possibility.
No, I mean, no, it's a possibility.
You saying it's actually gonna happen?
It's inevitable. Inevitable. That's what's gonna happen. We're talking about space travel, and they're like, oh, a light year is, you know, however many millions of years away. Humans, for whatever reason, will never live.
What you mean for whatever reason?
Because we're too fragile. But they can put it.
We age.
Right, we age. But you can put a robot into space, and it can be there for 100 years just traveling. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get into this last race. Maybe we'll have this other space conversation later or whatever. But y'all can leave your thoughts. We're all going to be robots or microchipped or whatever. AI is the future.
Cyborgs.
Yeah, cyborgs. Well, nah. Cyborgs is just like halfway doing it.
Yeah, but if you replace your heart and then you replace like your brain and you replace the aging, you can't be a cyborg.
I mean, there's going to be like a race war between
you gotta have
humans
like some
humans, cyborgs, and AI. And AI is going to be like, no, get rid of they're going to half breeds. So they're going to get rid of the cyborgs and then humans. So, yeah. It's over for us.
Last race. Let's talk the Tau. The exact formation of the Tau Empire is not entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40K world that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones. And they thought, dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks. Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day for the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire. They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo, where they have the overarching prophets, being the ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good. That is generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles and rail guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst cannons and ion accelerators and void shields and all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil. This doesn't sound very grimdark Warhammer. And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying grimdark style like everybody else. They're much more younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40K universe very well. They lack that super dark, dramatic, kind of high gothic level the Imperium has. They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orks do. And the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time, because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall. You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If you're talking tabletop, that is what you should be going for every time, is what you think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting, every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, if anything you could take away is the reason why so many of us are so into this series and why we like it so much. Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been informative to you. If you'd like to see more of me, Bricky, you have twitch.tv/Bricky for my streams. You have my merchandise site, in which I was wearing all of my merch, but underneath this, because I had to wear this so it wasn't black or white for the green screen, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description. Also, if you'd like to support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Bricky for more videos like this, then that would also be wonderful. So Twitch, merch, Patreon, anything if you want to support, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it. If not, I'm just stoked you got all the way to the end of the video, and that is enough for me. So I'm going to be having some more content like this out in the future. Thank you so much for sticking around this long and being with me through this pretty rough time. That's, I think, all I got. Also, before I go, let me leave you with my favorite Warhammer quote. He who scoffs at the power of the last gun has never ran through a field of 1,000 of them. Bye-bye.
That was very good.
Yeah, that was good.
Very informative. He put a lot of work into it.
Right.
So definitely will be rewatching this.
Yeah. So what'd you think overall?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was very informative.
The second faction video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta go back through all of them, see which one is my favorite.
Oh, you can't tell already?
From mine?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a few.
Because initially we went over the Chaos gods.
I have some favorites right now, but
You don't have an overall favorite off the top of your head?
So I do, because when we watched that Psyker video, with the Sister of Battle, just her disposition, I was like, I like the way they look, but I'm not sure if I like them.
Yeah, right.
So then we have the Orks,
right,
and they're kind of like,
see, and that's how Warhammer is.
whimsical.
It's kind of like
and
you can like something or like a faction off of like the initial appearance or maybe your first thought of them, but then once you start digging deeper into some of the other factions, you're like, oh, I like this one is really cool, or I can imagine guns working or something like that.
But then I like the Salamander as well, because I really wasn't prepared for his disposition, which I was like, okay, like, because I was trying to imagine how would these people be? Would they be robotic, emotionalist sociopaths?
Yeah, right.
And so when I seen the Salamander and he was like
a nice guy.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He was like, what is your name?
Like, yeah. I was like, okay. I liked him. And I do like the sisters sororities, because I like the way they look. But I don't know.
Well, they're like overly religious.
But I'm very familiar with that.
Right.
Because of my life
really
experience. No, I'm
though.
not, but I'm familiar with it.
Right.
And so because like my life experience kind of dealt with people who are similar, and people might be like, how the hell? There are people like that in the church. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, I could really relate to it, not personally because I'm like that, but because that's my experience. And maybe if who knows what life event could have taken place, I could be one of those women.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, but I do like the Eldar as well, because I like elves.
Okay. Yeah.
But so I have like some favorites, but I feel like if I watch this again, I'll pick up on some different factions, because it's so much information. It is very overwhelming. That's why I kind of like. Oh.
So right off the bat, without a second watch, who's your favorite right now? Just first thought, right off the bat.
I can't.
Just first faction that comes to mind that you like, and then that's that. For now.
Okay, I'm gonna say sisters sororities or sororities.
Okay, all right, gotcha. So we'll leave it there. We're gonna continue things with Warhammer, or our journey with Warhammer. We're gonna finish out Paraxis, Pariah Nexus, and once we continue our journey, we're gonna revisit this conversation and see if that.
Can I have a second one?
No. You can. All right. You can have which faction which faction is your least favorite right now?
Oh, the Tau.
Okay, gotcha.
Because I was getting sleepy.
Yeah. For some reason, like nobody. Well, I don't like the Tau either, and I don't know too much about them.
Maybe that's why.
But the thing of it is, like Bricky said, they just don't fit to me. You know what I'm saying? And the funniest thing is,
I feel bad.
Wait. The funniest thing is, they're actually like the nicest group.
I feel bad. I take it back.
So now
I take it back.
So now it's like you've been completely turned from 40K, because now you look forward to grimdark. But anyway, we're gonna wrap right here, guys. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned. We're gonna continue more Warhammer content. We'll see y'all next time. Yeah, you bad, girl.
I feel bad.